property taxes, real estate taxes, or some other type of taxation in light of the state's present surplus?
Well, listen, none of us in here like taxes. I think we can all agree on that. And I'm a small government, low tax person. I don't want to pay any taxes that I don't have to pay, and I'm sure most of us out there agree with that. In light of the state's current surplus, I think it would be, the idea of reducing the funds coming into general revenue funds coming in would be, that has merit. That discussion has merit. And that's something that we could certainly discuss. When you're living in good times and you're running on a surplus, the money should really stay with the people. And I believe in that. I think if we are going to make cuts, I don't believe that I would want to make cuts necessarily to personal property taxes, just simply because that's where so much of the funding for public schools comes from. But I think it's great. If we can find a way to put the money back in the pockets of the people and reduce our tax burden, let's do it, but let's make sure that we're doing it in the right place so that we're not affecting things like our schools, our teachers' pay, Missouri's education system.
All right. Read the question from Matt here.
I'm good, you don't have to read
Okay.
it. I would be in favor, of course, cutting personal property tax, which might be a little, redundant or off of what he just said, but there's 29 states that have done it. Personal property tax, paying for something that you have bought and owned your vehicle over and over and over again, it's to me, that can go away. But 29 states have figured it out, how to do away with personal property tax. If we can, I guess I should say it's fraud, waste, and abuse is our problem in government. We need to find a way to, with the money we have, make things work, and this is one of the things that we can actually help people with by eliminating that tax. But also, I would like to say real estate tax. If you hit a certain age and you've owned your home for a certain amount of time, it would be nice that you didn't have to keep paying taxes on that, because as we know, especially in the last 4 years, inflation has just ballooned, and it is hard to realize how much money you have to save for retirement and to be able to pay your real estate tax over that time. So, if you retire at 65 and you live to 85, that's 20 years of inflation, and inflation in the last 4 years, if you balloon that for another 5 times that amount, it's going to be an insane amount of money that, I'm sorry, if you're on even if you're not on a fixed income, that is an insane amount of money to try to make up. So I would definitely be in favor of multiple forms, but as far as our surplus, I do not believe that we take away from the surplus. We just find the correct ways to use the money that we already have.
All right, you keep it. Number 12. You guys are following along. Let's see what number 12 is. Missouri has faced significant criticism for its treatment of people with disabilities, including the reduction of funding to the Consumer Directed Services Program. What plans do you have to restore and increase funding to the CDS program to ensure people with disabilities can maintain their independence and receive adequate care?
Okay, this was one of those questions that you get that you have to look up. This is something that you can't go, okay, I know what the answer is, or I can at least come up with some answer. So I did some research, and it is hard to find where they restored or that you need to restore, because where was the reduction? That's the hardest part to find, because as we heard, that it is 2 times more in the last how many years? 2 years? I think, yeah, it was recently that. But everyone is a part of our community, and I would hate to see this, that we do have reductions, or that somebody thinks that we've had reductions in this, because this once again goes back to fraud, waste, and abuse of government money. I couldn't come up with anything better than this when we looked it up. I just could not come up with anything that was better for this program than just finding a way to correctly use the money that they already have when they have had it doubled and it's not been taken away. Maybe some certain programs or certain parts of that has been taken away, but it is redistributing the money somewhere and making it work is what we need to do.
Do I need to read that for you? No? Okay. Brandon?
Well, I too can't find where we've had any reductions in the funding for the CDS program, and clearly it's been stated here tonight that there's been some increases. Listen, the CDS program's a great program. This is for people, obviously of all ages with disabilities, who want to live on their own and self-sustain, and they are able. These are people that are able and capable of doing this. And they have, we need to make sure that if this is something they want to do, that we can allow them to do this. The funding needs to be there, and it's crystal clear tonight after some of the other conversations we've had that we all know that we have waste in our government. This is not news to anybody. We have waste in the state government, we have waste in the federal government, and based on what we're seeing here and based on this question, clearly there is money being wasted. And so there needs to be an audit. We need to look into this, and we need to see where we can cut expenses within this department so that they are using the money the way that they should, so these folks that are willing and able and capable, that want to live out on their own and self-sustain, can have access to this program and have the funds that they need. I've not found where anywhere where Missouri has been mistreating these folks, but if that has happened, if in some way the state of Missouri has not been treating folks with disabilities fairly, properly, then that's disgusting, and we need to make sure that we change that. So let's look into the program, let's find the waste, let's fix the waste, and if for some reason there are shortfalls, then let's address that.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Next question. Number 5. What legislation or funding initiatives would you propose to fight human trafficking in our state?
Well, so here's the thing. Obviously, human trafficking is a nationwide problem. Human trafficking is also a Joe Biden problem. Human trafficking is a byproduct of open borders, amongst other things. And human trafficking in Missouri is actually an interesting story. I don't know that we need to provide any more funding currently for human trafficking in the state of Missouri. Our legislature actually allocated $900,000 for human anti-trafficking in the state of Missouri. And the state of Missouri actually has an anti-human trafficking task force. What I think a lot of folks in here do not know is that that task force is made up of one person. One person who works within the Attorney General's office, and that person actually does not have tasking authority. So if that individual actually wants to run an operation to find some bad guys, to save some victims, he needs to use other agencies throughout the state, such as the Highway Patrol, such as sheriff's departments, county sheriff's departments, or municipal police. So we've got the money there. The money has been allocated. But we've been talking all night long about how government does not work properly and about wasteful spending. Where are they spending that $900,000? Why do we not have a task force? This task force is made up of one person. I know them well. I've spoken to them at length. So what I would tell you we need to do is we need to take the money that's been allocated, we need to establish a task force, and we need to find these people, and we need to get the situation taken care of. I've stood with law enforcement. I back the blue, and I believe that we need to ask them to find these people. We need to demand our prosecutors hold folks accountable. And when these people are found, and when we put them in prison, we do need to look at our truth in sentencing in the state of Missouri so that when someone is put to prison for 15 or 18 years or whatever it is, we don't see them out in 3 or 4 years recommitting the same crimes.
All right, same question for Matt. What legislation or funding initiatives would you propose to fight human trafficking in our state?
Same thing, the legislation and funding is there. Of course, we need to always back our blue, back law enforcement 100%. But we need to make sure our judges, when it's time to do these things, max sentences are put in. And we cannot let criminals back on the streets. And that's what it comes down to with fentanyl, with any crime. When we've let people out on these crimes, we are allowing them to come back out and do a crime or the same crime again. So I believe that if we just would put max sentences on and make the judges stick to them, then we wouldn't have half the problems that we have. But also maybe maybe there could be more funding. You know, it's one of those things where you hate to say spend money ever as a Republican. But yeah, you could always spend more money in law enforcement because of something like you said. If you have one person trying to do a job, that's not going to happen. One person isn't going to control the state and do it all by themselves. And so, that is one thing that I guess I've learned doing this whole thing. I have had many people, and there's a lot of them wearing blue shirts out there, that have asked to help. Sometimes you need help, and there are plenty of people in the state of Missouri willing to do a lot of things, and that is one of them. We got plenty of people to do help.
All right, you get to keep that, and we have number 6 this time. You mentioned fentanyl, that comes up in this question. The fentanyl crisis continues to devastate communities across Missouri. What legislative actions do you believe are necessary to combat the dangers of fentanyl?
Legislation we have, a lot of the laws already there. It's, once again, it's making judges do the sentences, but sometimes you look at, you look at the things that are happening with human trafficking and the drugs coming across the border, and you wonder why. Why? Because it's big business. Because there is money involved, and this is a big business, and sometimes it is, sadly, it is, we have so many employees off of this big business. We have so many crimes being committed because of this big business. And if we could stop the big business of actually making these things happen, we wouldn't have to be doing these things that we're doing in the state of Missouri for fentanyl. But I think that sometimes we need to get the mindset of that all the things are there. We have to have the federal government sometimes go after that big business that is not coming out of the United States. It's coming from other borders. And shutting the borders, of course, is going to be one. Close the borders, that will help. But we need to close that business. We need to shut that business down no matter what it is. And of course, Missouri is not going to pull that off. The United States is going to pull that off.
Well, as with many of our other problems, once again, the fentanyl crisis is a product of open borders. The majority of the fentanyl that we have coming into our state and throughout this nation is coming across the southern border. This is, once again, it's a nationwide problem, along with being a Missouri problem. It is a Joe Biden problem. We need to close those borders. However, the question is, what do we think about this problem in our state? And I can tell you this, we all know that the smallest amount of fentanyl, whether it be a drop of fentanyl or a small pill, can be lethal, right? Just the smallest amount of fentanyl can kill you. So I think we need to, when individuals are found distributing